another way that autistic people can have their perspectives heard is at an organisational level. So to give an example of this, there's the Northeast Autism Society, which is a service in the northeast of England, and they have a number of schools and day services and residential care services. And they have a neurodiversity think tank, which is a group of autistic people who advise them, and it's really changed the way that they practice in terms of their staff training and things like that. I think that's a great example. I'd like to see more autism organisations and support services using this model to actually have autistic perspectives really centred in the way they work. But it can also be on a sort of smaller level. So any sort of public service, whether it's something like a museum or a library, there are times when people can get an autistic person in to do something like a sensory audit of the environment and just actually have autistic input. So often when you look at things like museums, there are things that they've considered for autistic kids, and they have this sort of pack for autistic kids, but they haven't considered autistic adults might also want to visit. And so I think just about any sort of public service can get some autistic input in different ways, pay somebody to come and sort of do things like a sensory audit and consider how autistic perspectives could shape practice in just about every sort of organisation.
Yeah, I think on a smaller organisational level, there's a very wide range of practices. Some you've mentioned are really good examples, all the way through to really bad examples of unfriendly environments and zero participation. So, but these examples show this is an area where one can make immediate impact by increasing levels of participation and engagement. One can improve practice on the ground level. And it's really good to feel that one can actually make a difference. It's just sometimes small changes make a big difference as well. So I think there's various examples that you've given, such as the sensory auditing one. There are groups like NDTI as an organisation that are employing autistic people to do exactly that, going to other organisations to do auditing and so on. And so I think there's a lot that can be done in this way, which will benefit autistic people across the board, really. And even in sort of high level of support needs kind of settings, I think things like sensory auditing would make a big difference, and that to be taken more seriously. And how these care services, for example, or any other services are organised, whether it's a library or a care home, or do you see what I mean? That having that input across society will improve matters a great deal. When it comes to experience of being autistic in these various settings, then autistic people are obviously the experts in.
I just want to pick up on the point you made about how this can be something that has an immediate effect, because I think in some of the other areas we've discussed, so things like sort of research and trying to influence policy, these are processes that can take
very
years.
Slow process.
Absolutely. But I think if people like educators, people working in services with autistic people, if they just went on social media and followed some autistic people and listened to what autistic people are saying and took that on board in their practices, I think that would make a huge difference. That could have an immediate effect that would really benefit many autistic people.
All of these things link up to the kind of culture of autism, though. So Another area for greater participation is in the media and the arts, the representation of autism, of autistic people, and that being more authentic rather than a set of stereotypes and so on. So I think participation is really a key ethos and driver for a lot of the work that I do and many others. And it can have that immediate impact on a local organisational level. Just small bits of advice can make a big difference for organisations working with autistic clients. And we've seen this many times in the benefits it brings.